Very excited. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We are very excited to have our conversations. So join this next session here, I should say, with the wonderful team from Crescent Electric. We've got a great conversation here today ahead of us with Megan and Sasha and Annie. We're going to be discussing Crescent Electric's journey with search, really leaning into discussing some of the machine learning and the AI functionality that they're leveraging on the site, how they're taking advantage of it, kind of talking about the whole process here. I am joined by just a wonderful team. Really couldn't ask for a better group of panelists here. Let's go ahead and start left to right. Sasha, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Give us some introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, that whole deal, please.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Sasha Prochnow. I am one of two e-commerce merchandisers at Crescent Electric. I've been in the e-commerce merchandising world for roughly 7 to 8 years in various industries, from plumbing, so kitchen and bathroom faucets and fixtures, the home improvement industry, and then now, of course, the electrical industry.
Awesome. Excellent. Annie?
Yeah, and I'm the second half to that e-commerce merchandising team. I've been doing online merchandising from fashion to home improvement brands, to now electrical distribution with Sasha as my partner. The core of what we do is what we like to call searchandising. So it's just getting the right product in front of the right customer at the right time for our website. There's a lot that goes into that.
I bet. Excellent. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I am also joined from from the Bridgeline team here, Miss Megan Winter. Go ahead and say hello, please.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, it's Jonathan and the ladies today. I love
Yeah.
this. I am Megan Winter. I'm a customer success director here at Bridgeline. I have had the pleasure of working with Sasha and Annie for the last year since I've started at Bridgeline. My previous experience, I've spent the last about 5.5, 6 years in e-commerce digital space overall, from working at a systems integrator previously and helping customers go through platform selections, implementations, deciding what to do next, and then moving to Bridgeline, where now I get to work with them in the Hawk Search platform, which is really exciting. So looking forward to today.
Excellent. And my name is Jonathan Meyer. I'm one of the senior solutions engineers for the Bridgeline team. You might have already seen me in one of the earlier presentations. Megan, you were also in another earlier presentation.
Yes.
So if you've been following along, you might be familiar with us already. Yeah, just been working with the tool with Hawk Search for over a decade now. I have lots of experience. Really excited to have the conversation today with everyone, because there's a lot of really cool things that we can discuss. And Crescent is one of our favorite sites to talk about here. You guys do a lot of really great things, and you are really just kind of like the gold standard for kind of what we see in this space of the B2B catalog, with a complex catalog, leveraging lots of different features of the tool here. So let's dive into it. Megan, I know that we had some topics that we wanted to tackle here when it comes to consideration and challenges when we think about that complex catalog.
We do. And I want to kind of give this session a little bit of a preface. This is going to be similar to the other session I hosted, where it's more of a conversation and discussion. It's not going to be showing you really exciting things. Well, this is all really exciting, but more of a discussion on how is Crescent doing things? How are they tackling some of these challenges that they're faced with? And how are they really, I like that word, searchandising. I'm going to use that. How are they capitalizing with that technology? So a complex catalog. You guys have one of the most complex catalogs I know of.
Yeah.
And taking that into account with Hawk Search, how to use Hawk Search, how to make Hawk Search useful for internal and external users. What are some considerations you guys have to make and some challenges you're faced with your catalog now?
Yeah, so this catalog at Crescent is probably the most complex that I've ever worked with as a merchandiser. And some of the biggest issues that we face in the electrical industry with a big complex catalog starts with like inconsistent product data. So on our website, we have over 200,000 SKUs and much more offered by the various manufacturers in the industry and in our PIM system. So it's a really large product portfolio to manage in its entirety. But product data is really the foundation for having a good customer experience on a website, as it feeds into lots of things like search relevancy, so the ability to find products, as well as the product pages that display that essential information for customers to make that purchase decision. However, like I said, product data in the electrical industry has lots of room for improvement. In most cases, the product data that we receive in our PIM needs to be cleaned up before we can present it on the website. There's also a wide variety in the quality and consistency of data across the different suppliers. Like different suppliers will speak to metrics and other electrical specs with varying values, and that can make the product data a little messy. And then with lean resources, the cleanup of product data can become really time consuming. And then too much product data is also a challenge we face. So with the vast extent of different product types that we sell as an electrical distributor, we have to be conscientious of what data and fields we are feeding into HawkSearch. If there are too many fields, this can slow down search. It also has the potential to make that search relevancy not as accurate, which leads to a poor customer experience. And it's really all a balancing act as well. So with a large catalog, it's a challenge making sure the products the customers are the most interested in purchasing are the most visible to them. So this means making sure the products each individual customer is looking for is shown at the top of their search results, the category listings, in search autocomplete, and in the recommendation widgets on the site. So the right balance of what products to make the most visible is reliant on accurate search relevancy fed by product data, but also sales data, and then like touches of personalization. So getting the right balance can really be challenging.
Kidding. Holy cow. That is a lot
A
that you
lot.
guys are considering. And I think you made a really good point I want to touch on specifically is you mentioned having too many fields and facets in could actually hinder the search experience. I know there's a misconception sometimes where it's like, show everyone everything. Like, maybe that's not. Maybe that's actually reducing the time it takes to get them to the checkout process than it is for them to find the product that they need. How do you guys feel about that? How do you, I guess the better question is, how do you tailor down the number of fields and facets to be realistic?
Yeah. So, I mean, we utilize data and reporting a lot in our,
Mhm.
decision-making process. So, in order to like identify and prioritize like which fields customers actually want to see on that left-hand navigation, we can look at like click reports as well as like search reports, like what are customers even searching for? And a lot of the times that will include like attributes before a keyword. And then we know which attributes to turn on to the left-hand side to help those customers narrow down their search results more. And we've worked a lot with HawkSearch, Stephanie specifically. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
listening, shout out. And she's been a real help in identifying, what's the most important and most impactful product data that the customer actually wants to see.
I
Yeah,
love that.
definitely
So
a shout out to
great.
Stephanie there.
Always.
She's one of
Yes.
the original guard like me here, so I always love. She's such a great resource, and I'm glad to hear that
Yes.
you guys have has leveraged her. And I mean, even looking at this screenshot here of kind of your catalog flyout, I mean, it's very easy to see kind of the complexity of this catalog, just the number of categories that we're talking about, and then the subcategories and going further and further down. Um,
Yep.
And then the attributes
It's
within those
oh,
Yep.
subcategories.
And then the
sounds really
inconsistencies like you're talking about there, they're like, oh, this
yeah.
vendor refers to it that way, this vendor refers to it another way.
Exactly.
Do you I believe if I'm correct here, are there multiple ERPs that are sending data to your PIMs too, or is it multiple PIMs that you're working with?
Just one PIM system,
Okay.
but the way we get data can come from different sources. So either through the supplier directly or third-party solutions that will kind of organize and collect the data and then send it to us.
That's it's crazy. So I think it's safe to say that you spend a lot of time making
Yeah,
sure that
one of
your
like
data is right.
one of like the biggest helps though for us like normalizing our product data though has been like HawkSearch's normalizer feature. So because we get so many different variations of electrical spec values that come through from different manufacturers. So when you're looking at amperage rating, you can
Yep.
see 20A, 20 amp or 20 amps. And that can have an effect on search relevancy because if they type in each of those variations, you might get different search results for whatever you type in, which is not a great experience because you're missing a lot of the products that they might be looking for. So HawkSearch's normalizer has helped us ensure like the different formats of the electrical units of measure are read the same by search, regardless of how they enter into our index.
Yeah, that's a really important call out to
Mhm.
bring up. It's one that I often forget because again, Stephanie is
Yeah.
typically one who's helping set that up and it's behind the scenes. So when I get to it, things are just working great. So I can search however I need to.
And for our clients that are watching this live, the feature that we're talking about here is the normalizer that Annie is rightfully mentioning there. The kind of the name, the merchandising, the marketing name that we've given that is our measurement conversion tool, and that is really one of the most powerful tools that we bring for complex catalogs like this to help to normalize that data. Like Annie was talking about, 20A versus 20 amp. Those consistently, or classically, I would say, historically is maybe the better word,
Yeah.
would deliver very different results because 20A doesn't mean 20 amp. But with this measurement conversion tool that Crescent is taking advantage of, it does normalize those values. And that also means that from a search perspective, so if someone is searching on 20A, we can find 20A products, but we can also find 20 amp products and so on and so forth. So if there's inconsistencies in the data, we're helping with that end of it, where, this vendor refers to it as 20A, this other vendor refers to it as 20 amp. We can normalize that from a search perspective, but also understanding the search requests themselves, I think, is the other kind of part that happens there, is that your data might be inconsistent, but then there's also the inconsistency of how does someone even search on that? Like one visitor might search on it 20 amp one word, 20 amp with a space, 20A. We want to make sure to Annie and Sasha's point there that that isn't breaking the experience and that these complex catalogs, that measurement conversion tool can really help kind of flatten out and make something that, a
Yeah.
visitor can really find the right results.
Yeah. Jonathan, you touched on a good point that I think leads to our next topic of personalization of every user has a different way they might be searching for something. Maybe it's a specific word or term or whatever, but we know in the industry space that most folks have a term that they prefer to use for a topic, and it might be different from, different regions might use different terms. So I'm curious from your guys' perspective, is personalization an important focus for Crescent, to your customers, and realizing you have both internal and external customers too? How important is personalization to you guys?
Personalization is very important to us. For Annie and I, we're constantly like looking for those small wins, the big wins, but it really goes back to the core of what e-commerce merchandising is, showing the right product to the right customer. So, and with that large catalog of SKUs that I talked about and the number of accounts that we have, it's almost impossible to create that personalized experience without using tools like HawkSearch. So
Yeah.
such as like those 4 AI multipliers in the HawkSearch workbench that affect search results and product landing page results, the recommendation widgets with personalization strategies. And we also have a capability on our site for customers to have like their own part number. And then last year we added those customer part numbers into the autocomplete. So that's also fed by HawkSearch and provides another level of personalization to our customers that they really value and use often. So Andy and I, again, like we're constantly focused on providing customers with that personalized shopping experience as best as we can.
Yeah. It's like what Sasha said as well, like it's all a balancing act. So it's like, how do we ensure each individual customer is seeing the result that they want to see and not, like we have like different markets of construction and industrial. So how do our construction customers see those products that they want to see, but also at the same time, how do our industrial customers see those products? And the AI multipliers have helped there. Just because there is also like it's a learning search multiplier, but it also has personalization as well as sales data that fed into it. So it kind of balances it for us. So we don't have to manually spend so much time looking at each individual customer, each individual market, and tweaking it with manual boost and bury rules. Like the multipliers really do that for us, especially since we've gone a step further and added in our offline sales data as well. So instead of just looking at what our online customers are doing, the AI multipliers are working off of our offline sales data as well as our online sales data. So it's our company data as a whole. And it's really providing more like relevant like search accuracy and the results that the customers want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great point to call out there because this is Crescent's doing something really cool there with that offline sales data. It was a project we kicked off a year plus ago at this point now, I think,
So,
to really take advantage of, because every client within HawkSearch has the ability to leverage those multipliers, the second bullet point here of the learning search, the personalization, orders, and add to cart information. Those are kind of naturally tracking the signals that we're seeing on the website. So what are visitors clicking into and what are people adding to their cart and what are people ordering, using that personalization to understand, oh, it's Megan, it's Anna, it's Annie, it's Sasha. We know what they're interested in. But Crescent has done this really cool thing where we're taking the offline sales data, so information that's happening outside of the website, and feeding that back into HawkSearch so that we know, oh, someone in Boise, Idaho bought X, Y, and Z, and this was the account that they're signed into. So now when they come back into the website and they're doing those same searches, it recognizes those kinds of relationships. And I think this is a really cool kind of point because for a lot of our B2B customers, I think there is this kind of thought that, oh, personalization, it's, it's a B2C thing. It's like, oh, if I'm shopping for a dress, what color dress would
Yeah.
I want?
Yep.
Where I think you guys are being very smart about thinking about, well, this has an application to our environment. So I'm curious, where did you see this kind of like, hey, this would have a good benefit for our clients in learning from those kind of experiences?
Yeah, I mean, personalization, like you were just saying, it's key in any space these days. I know I appreciate it as a consumer and a customer, especially in like the B2B world, they're not going to typically buy something that they don't need from us, or if they're struggling to find what they need, they can easily go elsewhere to look. So it's important that we show them the products and content for the specific projects that they're working on. And with that ease of access to the products they need, it builds that relationship. And then most importantly, that trust with the customer. We need and want them to trust us. And I would say personalization, I don't think it's like a craze in the electrical space quite yet, but it's still very, very important. And we want to be one of the first or the first in the industry to really set that standard for how a personalized experience should be in the online electrical space, and then provide our customers with an experience that they're not going to get from our competition.
Yeah. And to add on to that, like our website is used as a tool. So we want to make sure that our B2B customers who are buying in branch, if they use our search as a tool, that they're seeing the same results that they would get by talking to one of like our account representatives. So it's just another, place for them to find what they're looking for like Sasha said, their specific project and not kind of be diluted by other irrelevant product.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
think that's a really important point is that though they may not be purchasing online, it's still providing an assist to their purchase
Yeah.
and their experience to purchasing. Because if they're going in branch, they're going to come back and come back again, but they're also going to check
Mhm.
online before they go there. Do they have it in stock? And with the personalization, they bought it previously, it's going to pop up higher on their search results. So
Exactly.
double win. I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's you made a good point too there as well about how it's a differentiator. It's a spot to separate yourself
Yeah.
from your competitors and builds that loyalty. If they know they can go to Crescent Electric and it's going to understand these things and they can just find what they're looking for without having to fight the system, or if they're even just doing research, like you said, if they're using the tool as a resource, the website as a resource to find what they're looking for, that builds loyalty. That builds, hey, I'm going to go to Crescent because I know I can find that information. And while I'm there, oh, I'm going to buy X, Y, and Z, as opposed to I'm going to go here because this is where I can find that product easier. Really great, really, really forward thinking on your part. And we're very excited to help drive this functionality for you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love that. Does your sales team use the website like a tool as well?
Yes, like they have like a portal that they can log into and kind of see what the customers are seeing. And they do that often.
Love that. Awesome. Let's jump ahead to recommendations. I know we're
Yeah.
doing some really fun things. This has been kind of I don't want to say a brand new venture with Crescent, but a newer
Mhm.
experience and adventure that we're going down. And I want to understand, how are you leaning into the AI strategies for recommendations? I know we touched on a little bit of this with personalization, but kind of walk us through how AI has helped you kind of build a recommendation strategy.
Yeah, so we had recommendations on the site,
Mhm.
and then this year we kind of really turned up the dial and put a focus on it because we see the potential that they have, just in helping customers find the products they're looking for faster. And so we not only had to strategize the placement of where these widgets would go, so our high traffic areas are our most visible areas, like the home page, category pages, our manufacturer pages, PDPs, add to cart page, and order history, but also kind of what strategy we would use within each location. So because there's a lot of complexities, like the AI strategies from HogSearch kind of really help do that for us. and automatically take the data, take the personalization, data that they track, and then also kind of present these relationships for us. So it kind of takes the heavy lifting off of us and more onto like the machine learning and AI.
I love that. I
And
think that, oh,
Go ahead,
sorry, go
Megan.
ahead,
Sorry, didn't mean
Jonathan. You
to.
go.
I was going to say, I think you mentioned a couple of cool things that I want to zero in on there because the idea of placement, I think, is always kind of critical when it comes from recommendations. You want to make sure that you are um, engaging the visitor, but not getting in the way of. You don't want to interrupt the sales cycle that they're currently in. You want to add on to that, not go, oh well, now I want to go down this whole other rabbit path, and now I'm not looking at what I'm buying here. Some other cool things that I think you guys are highlighting here is just the experience for a B2B client in your industry. If we're looking at this screenshot here, one of the things that I think leaps out at me about this idea of you don't want to interrupt the sales cycle. You want to accentuate it. You want to complement it is that right here in this kind of carousel, you guys have gone that extra mile where we're doing the quantity and the add to cart in the recommendation widget here. So instead of someone having to click through to the product detail page, then select their specified quantity, then click add to cart, now we're going back into that process here. As a part of this, they can see, oh, I was looking for galvanized IMC EMT conduit. I was looking for 10, I was looking for 20. I changed that kind of in the drop down there and then click add to cart and you're on your way. You're not interrupting that process. I was curious if you guys had, what were your thoughts on that? Did you experiment with this? Was this something that you guys kind of came back and were like, hey, this is where we want to go. We know how our clients are looking to browse through our site when we're doing this kind of sales process.
Yeah, we really lean on like our partners within the Crescent Electric, like account managers, category managers, people that are like we would consider more of the experts in the electrical industry because when we first started, that was not us. We had to learn a
Yeah.
lot. It's a very complex industry. So we really lean on them to understand what is the most important to the customer, but then also like what Annie talked about earlier is looking, what are people searching by? What are they looking for? So we understand the things that are important to them on their shopping journey. And then we're able to make tweaks when we see, if there's a widget that's not performing well, we can make a tweak to it
Yeah.
and like learn from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we use like more personalization on our homepage, our cart page, and our order history page, because that's the strategy that we've seen work the best. But on our PDP page, we want more of that like item relationship. So it's like if a customer is purchasing conduit, what all do they need with their conduit purchase? Um, so that's where you kind of have to look into like the location as well as the strategy that goes within it because not all personalization would work on every single page that we have on our website. And that's where like the recommendations and how they work within Hawk Search, we're able to like go in and tweak what works and what doesn't, and then look at reporting and continuing to make tweaks with
Love,
strategies.
love that you said that because I think that's a common misconception where sometimes it's easy to place a widget wherever, right?
Yeah.
It'll work here, it's personalized, but personalized works better in certain areas than it does in others. And I think it's really great that you guys are cognizant of that and focused on making adjustments and tweaks when something isn't performing right. So, one last question before we move into the next section here. When you're looking at how these widgets are performing, do you give it like a 1 or 2 month and then you start tweaking and adjusting things, or do you let it be more dynamic and let it self-adjust with the strategies that are within the widget?
I would say it takes, almost like a quarter to kind of
Yeah,
really gauge how something's performing, just because in the electrical industry, like users are still trying to get familiar with using websites more. So our
good point.
customer is still learning how to shop on ecom. And so with that, we also have to give it time in order to really see how the things that we do impact reporting and metrics and KPIs before we can really make any major decisions based off of, data.
I think that's a great lead into our last topic, Jonathan, the reporting and
And
metrics. And like you said, giving it some time to let the customer learn, understand, learn how to shop, but also for the AI to do that. So I'm curious, how are you tracking those metrics right now? Are there a couple key reports that you're really leaning into and that you like to check out on a weekly, monthly basis?
Well, for recommendations specifically, there's specific recommendations reporting within HawkSearch that we look at. And we've been looking at like clicks, add to carts, and orders. And adding personalized strategies in certain areas has really been impactful, as well as using more of the AI strategies. And we've definitely seen an increase in clicks, add to carts, and orders from that. But in terms of like the rest of the site for like search, we use like the top 250 search keywords. It gives a good measure of if like what customers are looking for month by month. So we can see if anything's trending, if we need to add more of a focus, in I guess we can say heating and ventilation. You're going to have heaters more in the winter and air
No.
conditioners more in the summer.
Yeah.
Um, and then we can kind of make business decisions based off of that data. Um, and it gives a good performance if our search relevancy and search accuracy and our results are showing what customers are looking for, by giving us that like sample of data of the most looked for
Yeah.
key.
And I think it's worth highlighting the report on the page here that you sent us a screenshot of because it's pretty exciting. But walk us through, give us a quick overview of what are we looking at in this report? What are we seeing with this really great increase
Yeah,
over
this is not
time?
a graph we mocked up. This was
No,
something that,
this is
Crescent said,
straight from
hey,
Crescent.
Yeah.
here's a screenshot. We obviously cropped a little bit. We don't want to give away trade secrets here, but very impressive. So yeah, please walk us through what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is looking at our homepage, add to cart, order history, and PDP recommendation widgets. These are our newly implemented ones as of this year. So we really wanted to see the growth that they've had, because previously they were either just like using basic popularity strategies and that was it. There was no additional layer of like AI or personalization within them. So having worked with HawkSearch to kind of come up with a recommendation strategy and then implementing those at the beginning of the year, we really started to see these like conversion and add to cart rates really grow, because we've put more of a focus on using the strategies that HawkSearch has built out for us.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that our growth is not always going to be a straight line. It probably won't. But that is something I think Andy and I are really good at, is being patient and understanding that the machine needs to learn, the customers need to learn as well. But I think we're also getting to a place where we don't have to come up as much with these huge strategies. It's more of that fine tuning as we kind of stabilize the business and our personalization strategies, essentially.
I love that. Patience is key, especially
Yes.
with AI, which is a weird concept, right? Because AI, it's like, what are we doing? How do we do it right now? How fast can we get it implemented? But it's like once
Yep.
it's there, let it work. Let
We'll
it
have to
work
learn
and see
from
the
it.
results.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. I know we're getting close here on time as we wrap up this session. Any last minute thoughts, questions, things you want to share with our attendees about your journey with AI and HawkSearch?
I would say really lean on HawkSearch, the workbench, your partner, whoever that is, Stephanie. I think we have a really great relationship with all of the HawkSearch partners that we work with. Like really lean into that workbench and you guys are so helpful with like calling out certain things that we could do, and helping us then execute them. Like even like we've talked about the AI multipliers,
Yeah.
personalization widgets and things like that, but even things that are not always as big in the workbench is like the offline sales data. Like that's kind of, it's not necessarily like a tool in the workbench we can just do. So working on like those different opportunities, like there's always something to do. There's always room for improvements. I would say just really lean on your HawkSearch partners to find those opportunities. And if you have an idea, bring it to HawkSearch because chances are they can probably help you with it.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the shout out there.
Yeah, we're not even using all of the AI that HawkSearch has to offer as well. Like there's a lot within the search results specifically. So there's still so much more that we can utilize and partner with them on.
Yeah, lots more to
Okay.
come.
There is a lot more to come. All right, as we wrap up this session here, I want to give a quick little announcement that there is a free on-site search audit. If you scan this fun little QR code here, you'll get a kind of free on-site search audit there. I am not 100% sure how this works, but check it out. Like, why not? QR codes are fun.
Yeah, go ahead and scan it.
scan it, see what happens.
Let us know.
It does. And then my favorite announcement as we close up this session is that we are going to host our in-person customer summit the fall of 2025. We're going to be announcing that, I believe, this next month in May. So more fun details to come. And Sasha and Annie, I hope you guys will be there this year again. It was great having you. And thank you again for joining us today on today's session. It was wonderful to have you and hear all your insight on how things are working with HawkSearch.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone.
rest of your day. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.